speak at this great event. I've sat through the whole session today, and I've been really impressed with the comments and the networking and the previous speakers. So hopefully I'll be able to add a few perspectives from my side, which is really looking at my story and also what I've learned from that as an employee going through a career, and also now as an employer leading an international group. So my connection, I think the reason I was asked to speak today is that at Gilead Sciences, where I work, we have a very strong employee groups that represent different parts of our diverse kind of workforce, and the Globe Group is the organisation for Black employees that I'm allied with. So through that, I was invited to come and speak. So I'm very happy to be here. So all these views are my own. They're nothing to do with Gilead's, but they kind of reflect my own personal view. So that's my kind of career path. And I think sometimes people look at that and see where I've ended up and think that must have been an easy run, but it wasn't. When I did my A-levels, I failed miserably the first time I took them. I had to retake my A-levels. I didn't do brilliantly the second time. And I went through clearing, and I managed to scrape onto a degree course. Once I got onto the degree course, I actually found it suited me pretty well, and I did pretty well there and came out with a good degree. And then that's let me step up into a PhD course. And I did a little bit of lecturing, and then I decided to join the pharma industry, and it's been a fantastic experience. 25 years now in that industry, and I'm quite unusual in that I've stayed in roles for quite a long time. There's 3 companies there: Omnicare, Kyowa, and Gilead, where I've actually spent 5, 11, and 10 years so far. So I've kind of gone into companies with the view that I'll be there long term, but I want to grow my career in that company, and that's what's happened. So for me, I always look for that. If somebody comes and applies for a job for me now, I look at whether they've proven themselves in a company. If somebody's jumped around from one role to another every year, you're never really sure whether they've been able to deliver, whether they've got a track record. If someone's stayed at a company and been promoted once or twice, that tells me a lot more about that person. So that's something I always look for. I've been lucky that I've worked different places around the world, and I've always taken opportunities when they've come up to go and do something a little bit different. Omnicare and Kyowa, both of those stints ended up in redundancy. Both nothing I could do about. The first one came as a real shock when it happened. Took it quite personally, and then the second time I realised that it's just something that happens in businesses, and you can use it to your advantage, because every time it's happened to me, I've gone on to take a much more interesting role, and it's opened up another step in my career. So we were just talking in our breakout sessions about some of our colleagues that are going through this right now, and I think there's, be positive, because it often pushes you to go and do something that you probably wouldn't have done, and you can really benefit from that. So thinking about growing a career in a company like Gilead, which is a big, $20 billion a year pharma company, it's a good company to be at. Not all companies are equal. So I would say if you're looking for a new role, always make sure you assess the company. Don't just go to the interview and sell yourself. Go and ask questions. So rare that I interview people that they actually ask about our company. It's rare that people ask about our values. It's rare that they ask questions about how much do we invest in training and development. People spend the interview process trying to tell us how good they are and why we should hire them. But I actually want candidates to tell me why we'd be lucky to have them, and they should be really assessing whether it's a good fit for them. And also, you want a company that's going to be caring about people, and that's a word that I use deliberately because it's something we're starting to introduce at Gilead recently, that we want people to feel that the company cares about them and their development. And really crucially, you want to make sure you get on with your line manager. Your manager, your immediate manager, is going to have the biggest influence on how you develop your career in any big organization. So it's really important you can bond with that person. And one of the speakers earlier talked about gut feeling. I use gut feeling when I'm hiring people. I use what I call the lifeboat test. If I can't decide whether to hire somebody or not based on their technical skills, I ask myself a question that if I was on a sinking ship and jumped into a lifeboat, would I want that person in that lifeboat with me? Are they going to eat all the food when everyone's asleep? Are they going to take their turn rowing on the oars? Are they going to be positive influenced for the rest of the team? Or are they going to be complaining, hiding away from the work, and being selfish. And that makes it a very easy decision for me. When I look at people, I can put them into that bucket, and it helps me decide who I want in my team. This has come up before. Deirdre was talking about this just now, so it's great to hear that. Being curious is a really important skill. I think when you join a company, it's really important to find out as much as you can about not just the role you're going to be doing, so that you can do that the best of your ability, but actually all the other roles in the company. Quite often people can spend 10 years in a company and they've got no idea what other departments do. They've got no idea what other options there might be open to them because they've never connected with people outside their immediate function. So being curious is a really important thing to bear in mind. You've obviously got to show your competence. You're not going to be able to grow your career in a company if you don't have the basic competence. You also have to make sure that's visible. If you're really good but you keep quiet and no one knows you, you're not going to get those opportunities to progress your career. So being visible in the right way is something I would recommend. Being proactive, volunteering for opportunities when they come up, being positive. I work for an American company, and you have to be positive all the time. They hate any kind of negativity, so I have to kind of make myself be positive when I speak to them, because it's not my natural characteristic, because I'm British, but the Americans want to see positivity all the time, big smiles whenever you speak to them. Being a team player is important to me. Being nice, and I put that in deliberately because we don't want people that can just deliver and do and achieve the results. We want them to achieve the results in the right way. We want people to actually do that by bringing people with them, not by alienating people. You know, we want to get the results done. We want people to behave with the right kind of behaviors, which is important. Being self-aware is really important. Sometimes I see people that really don't understand how they're coming across to other people because they've never asked them. So asking for feedback is really important, and it's a tough thing to do sometimes because no one likes to get told negative things. Sometimes people aren't very good at giving feedback, but if you don't ask, you're not going to get it. And if you want to grow and figure out how you're seen by your colleagues and your boss, you've got to be asking. And being realistic is important as well. Sometimes I get really bright young graduates coming in and they think they're going to be a VP in 3 years, and they get really disappointed because they're not promoted every 6 months. You've got to be a little bit realistic and understand how the company you're in operates. You know, some things just aren't going to be possible. So be ambitious, but be realistic. And this was mentioned previously as well. Invest in your network. I think it's really important, and it's something a lot of people in my group don't do enough of. So that's internally building a network of allies within your company across the different functions, not just within the group that you work with, but crucially externally. It's really helped my career to be involved in industry collaboration groups. And when I got into tough times, when I was made redundant, it was my network that got me out of those tough times. Those are the people that stepped up to offer help, make some connections and introductions to jobs in other companies. And I've always got other roles because of that. So, you know, feed the network. Don't just take from it, but you need to give to it as well. You need to help other people and share knowledge and contacts with them. But it's really critical. And you're all doing that here tonight by joining this session. The other thing I would say, that if you're in a company, especially the one like mine, figure out who the key stakeholders actually are. Sometimes people don't take the time to sit and map out who's important in their hierarchy. You know, if I've got someone who's really high influence and can have a big impact on my career, I need to make sure that person knows who I am. I need to be impressed with me. So if I get an opportunity to present in front of them or to do a project for them, I'm going to really give that my best effort, because that can make a lasting impression. And it helps build my brand within the organization. Sometimes people just do not take the time to do that. And now every year when we look at promotions within my group, people are being put forward by their managers, and I don't even know who they are sometimes. So because they're not visible to me and they haven't managed the relationship they've got with me, and that's not a great thing to do. So map out stakeholders and figure out who it is you need to be visible to, I think, if you want to kind of carve a career within any organization. This is a big thing for me personally, and also within the company I work for currently, is the accountability principle. And the Oz principle is a great book. If you haven't read it, you can get it on Amazon for a few quid, because there's a lot of copies around. We do training in this in Gilead because it's such a critical part of what we want our team to do, and that's about owning and solving problems and doing things that aren't just your immediate responsibility, but looking beyond that, and behaving in a way that you want to fix and solve problems. You're not waiting for someone else to do that. And likewise, you need to take accountability for your own career. You can't sit there and expect your manager he might have 10, 15 other people to manage. You need to be shaping your own career path. You need to be making sure your manager knows what your aspirations are. You need to be discussing with him what opportunities you're looking for, because they won't necessarily have the time to think about each of their reports in the way that you think they might. So I think that's a really good life lesson. It's also about shaping the world around you, not just sitting back feeling sorry for yourself because you can't control things around you. It's about taking control of some of those things and changing what you can to your benefit. So I would recommend that if you haven't heard about that one. And likewise, growth mindset's a big thing for us at the moment, because we're going through a lot of change as an organization, and actually changes are constant in most industries. You just got to get used to it. You don't get jobs where you just do the same thing for 20 years anymore. That doesn't exist. So having a growth mindset can really help cope with change and take advantage of that. There's all sorts of complicated descriptions of this, but I thought I'd share a picture that my daughter, when she was in year 5, was given this at school. So the whole growth mindset principle is now being taught at quite a young age in our schools. I took a photo of it, and this is actually on my whiteboard in my office in Uxbridge. So even though it was designed for year 5 students, I use it when I'm talking to my PhD scientists and people that work for me, because it's very straightforward. What you're really looking for is the growth mindset on the right. These are people that really want to learn and stretch themselves. They want to embrace challenges, and they don't give up when things don't go their way. They look for feedback and they learn from that feedback, and they don't resent other people being successful. The idea is that all of us can get better. We might not all become Premier League football players or astronauts, but whatever we do, we can all get better at doing that. But it takes a bit of hard work and practice. So that's something, again, that we constantly refer to, that if you want to adapt and you want to progress, having a growth mindset is the only way to be. And sometimes we float back into the fixed mindset, but try and pull ourselves back into the growth mindset, because it's got real advantages. And the other thing I would say is look at your transferable skill set. Sometimes people really focus on their technical skills, and they just think very narrowly about the job they've been doing and what they've actually got experience in that role. But actually think about the transferable skills, because as an employer, that can open up all sorts of doors for somebody. If they've got great presentation skills, organizational skills, leadership skills, for example, they could probably do a job in the different parts of the organization, not just the one that they joined in. So sometimes people narrow their own field and opportunities by thinking that they've got to stick on this technical path that they've started on. But actually, there's a whole range of jobs that people could do within a company or outside in different industries by focusing on developing their transferable skills and then highlighting those when you get the opportunity. And this was mentioned earlier as well about resilience and how important that's been this year for everybody. Building resilience is critical, especially when you go through tough periods of change and stress like we all have been this year. And I've been really impressed by the people that I work with, how resilient they've been. And one way you can maintain resilience is to have a proper perspective on life and a balance. It's not all about a career. Careers are important, but your families are a lot more important than a career. Your friends are important. You need to look after your own health. I don't want people missing doctor's appointments because they've got work to do. It really makes me angry when I hear that kind of thing. You've got to look after yourself. You've got to find things that keep you grounded. It could be going to church. It could be doing voluntary work. It could be gardening. It could be going for a walk, whatever it is. I've started new hobbies this year because I was working with a therapist, and she was saying, you don't have any hobbies. You don't have any life outside work. You need to start developing some. So I've started to do that, and that's helped me get through this year. And it's really important that we all focus on that as we go forward, especially when it's tricky times like it is now. If you do all those things, you'll end up on the left side of this diagram, which is the successful person. And these are all the characteristics of people who are successful, and it all ties in with the growth mindset and the accountability and being positive. Those are the kind of people that do well in organizations. On the right hand side, these are kind of some of the bad behaviors that I do see sometimes, where they're resistant to change, they think they're an expert, they don't like feedback, they hold a grudge, they talk badly about other people. We all know people like this, and they're not the people that are going to succeed in my organization. So luckily, I've got a lot more people on the left side. And if the worst happens, and we were talking about it earlier, if you do end up losing your job, and a lot of people will this year, I would always say try and remember it's not you, it's not personal. Sometimes companies have to reduce the number of roles, and it's the position that's becoming redundant, not you. First time I was made redundant, I did take it personally. That's partly because when I phoned my dad up and told him, he immediately asked what I'd done wrong, because in his mind it was something I must have done wrong, but actually it was cutbacks, and my role just disappeared. And so I learned from that. Next time it happened, I didn't take it personally. And sometimes having that decision made, and it wasn't something you were part of, somebody else made that decision, but then you need to turn it into an advantage. Every time I've been made redundant, I've used my network and I've opened up a better career path in another company, usually on more money, and I've always been a lot happier. Sometimes it's a good time to pause and think, I want to do something in a completely different industry. I've got transferable skills. I really enjoy doing something else, and I'm going to go and do that right now. So it just gives you that time to get off the ladder, the career ladder a little bit, and think about, is this something I want to carry on doing for the rest of my life, or do I want to do something completely different? So I think if that does happen to anybody, keep confident, because there's a lot of good that can come out of these bad things that happen to us sometimes. And that's it. That's probably my 10 minutes up.
Wow. Listen, this is like a buffet. Thank you so much, Steve, for that. Really sort of simple, succinct, and so much there. Thank you so much. What part of the UK are you beaming in from this evening, Steve?
I'm in Wokingham in Berkshire at the moment.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you so much for that. That was amazing. You've really given us food for thought.